Hey, what's up guys? This is Anthony from Anthony's Customs, and for this review, we are looking at the Injustice Gods Among Us LOBO from Storm Collectibles, which is one that I know many people were very excited about. We don't have a ton of good LOBO figures, and Storm usually does a pretty good job with making good figures. So I know a lot of people were psyched about it, and I'm here to review it so that you can decide if you want to buy it. And I'm going to tell you right now, there's some good stuff about this figure, some really nice stuff. There is, however, at least one thing that is not very good about this figure. So you're going to have to decide what you value. I'm going to give you all the information. You can make a decision as to whether or not it's good for you. So let's go ahead and get him off the stand and take a closer look. This guy stands just about 22 centimeters to the top of his head, which makes him pretty close to 8 3/4 inches. And I'm just going to start with the bad. Right off the bat, we'll get that out of the way, then we'll talk about the good. The proportions on this guy are really weird. I looked up as many images as I could find from the game to see how he looks, and he doesn't really look like this. He's really thick in this figure. Like his hips, his thighs and hips, really thick. He's oddly thick in the thighs. Then he has really big arms here and tiny hands. Very strange looking. His torso is very thick. And so you would expect his chest to be very thick, but it's not, because with the vest and everything on there, it's still only about the same size as his torso. It's just a little bit wider. It should be flaring out much more. Because of that, it makes him look like he has a very tiny chest. He looks like he has a very tiny upper torso, very big lower torso. It's just a very strange combination of proportions. Now, once you pose him, a lot of that'll probably go away, but that doesn't change the fact that he does have fairly strange proportions. From the side, it looks pretty good other than the tiny hands, but definitely from the front, he's got a he definitely needs more chest. He just needs more chest, more meat up there, and then maybe tapered in thighs a little bit. Like, his legs are very girthy. That being said, there's a lot to like about this. There's a really clean paint job all the way around. Lots of details, everything looks really good. The skin tone is pretty much nailed. I don't have any issues with that. They got his ugly ass dreadlocks from that version of him. I guess they're not really dreadlocks, are they? Are they? I don't know. What do those count as? Hair worms. I don't know. He's got those. They captured the face likeness pretty well. All the detail work is nice. There's really no issues there. Aesthetically, it's pretty good other than those proportions. The back of his jacket, very nicely done. That's good. All in all, it's good looking other than those proportions. So if you can pose those away or don't care, then you're going to be just fine. He does have an actual real chain, which I understand the appeal for that. I do think they'd have been better off just giving us a sculpted one for going on his wrist, and then one that he can use as an accessory for like using the hook. And there's no hook on here. We'll get to that in a minute. They did add a little clasp on here to connect it, so that's pretty cool. You can use that to connect to the hook or to itself so that it stays on the arm better. But real chains just are not practical unless you put a wire through them, which makes them look kind of goofy. I don't think the benefits outweigh the negatives, so I would rather just have sculpted chains for various poses. But that's up to you to decide as well. So aesthetically, I'm going to give this guy a 7. If he had better proportions, which I think he could easily have better proportions, he'd be a 9 or a 10. There's tons of detail on here, tons of texturing. The cloth is all really nicely done. It's just he has such strange proportions, it throws it off. Okay, as for accessories, we have 3 different heads. We have the head that you see on him, which is like the one where he's smiling with his teeth showing. We do have a neutral head. Then we also have the one where he's got the cigar, which I think is the best sculpt out of all of them, except for the fact that the cigar just cuts right into his teeth. Like they didn't sculpt his mouth open to be biting the cigar. It looks like a tornado threw the cigar through his mouth and broke his teeth out. Not a good look, but it is probably sculpted the best otherwise. We do get a replacement cigar, by the way. If you need that, it's in the package. We have 4 different pieces of hair, but it's really just 2 and 2 I don't understand. If anybody can enlighten me about that, that would be wonderful. But as far as I can tell, we have 2 sets of 2 different hair pieces. I don't know why we have extras. I don't get it. But we do. All right, now, as I mentioned, we do have his hook with chain connected to that, so you can connect those with a little clasp. It's very nicely painted, very bright silver, very nicely done, so that's cool. We have alternate hands, of course, 2 fist hands, 2 gripping hands, and then 2 different sets of style posts / you could grip something with them hands. And then lastly, we do have his little sawn-off shotgun that says boom on it. So accessory wise, it's not too bad. It's the hair is kind of confusing. The cigar in the mouth is a little bit weird, but otherwise it's okay. I do definitely think molded sculpted chains would have been better, but it's still fine. I will go with 7 again. I think 7 is probably appropriate. Okay, as for the articulation, the head, I'm guessing it's the same as all Storm. Let's see. So big old double ball peg. The neck is flexible, so you can move everything around in there. How does it actually... Wow, why is a person peeling out in front of my house? Did you guys hear that? I probably didn't even need to mention it. So the head moves around pretty nicely. It sits very high on the neck, though. You have to kind of purposely make it go down, which is maybe their intent. If you make him look down, it looks fine, but if he looks up, the head sits pretty high on that neck. But it's okay. That works pretty well. You can pose it around nicely. That's good. This is a soft piece, obviously, and we have our standard Storm shoulders where there's a big ball peg that goes into the skeleton. This is a floating piece, so it gives you essentially a butterfly that moves in every direction, so that's really nice. How do the shoulders work? Well, they're a lot more limited than I would have expected. The hinge itself doesn't go very high, but if you use that butterfly joint, you can get the arms up horizontal, which I guess is fine. It works out. You can't go any higher though, so maybe they could have cut away a little bit more material, but that's still fine. Bicep swivel is not bad. You do have to do some binding, and you may end up with some scratched paint on there. Be careful, but it does function. And then for the elbow joint, let's see, this side's going to be limited because of this floating gauntlet piece. It's definitely going to get in the way. So yeah, you get 90 degrees on that side. Maybe not much better on this side though. It didn't feel like you're going to get much out of it. Let's see. Yeah, just better than 90 degrees. Still fairly limited in the elbow region. For the wrists, of course, we always have ball hinges from Storm with swivels, so that's pretty much standard. No problems there, that all functions. The upper torso, really nice range. That is exceptional. That is really good. That is how you do that. I just want to do it some more. It's really, really good. Lower torso, also really good range. That is awesome, and none of the joints are loose there. However, the way they did it, this is just a very flat termination of the lower torso. It doesn't come down into the belt really at all. So as soon as you lean them to the side, you are looking at the internals of the figure, and that is not a good situation. Now, the reason they did that is because of how thick his thighs are. Look at how much material is outside of the joint. Can you see that? Maybe you can, maybe you can't. Yes, you can see that. So the joint is here. You can see that, and then you have this whole piece of plastic on top, which makes it very thick. They should not have done that. They should have started tapering way sooner, because you need that extra space to do this. If you didn't create that extra space, the leg would be bumping into the torso and popping it off like on Street Fighter 2 Ultra Ryu and Ken, Dark Ryu and Ken. So it works out, but if they had tapered these a little bit more, they could have fixed this a little bit, and it would have looked better and worked the same. But you do get the legs pretty much all the way out to the side, so that's pretty good. It's squeaky, but I don't have any tightness issues. A little loose in the swivel there, but going forward, I guess forward and back's actually pretty loose. That's not good. That is borderline floppy. Be careful with that. You don't want this guy taking a shelf dive. You can get the legs up almost horizontal. It stretches out his special place a little bit, but that's kind of a given. It also stretches out his cakes. So be careful, but you can do that. It's also worth noting, and maybe this is just the character design, but there's no detail work for the pants. The top of the pants, it's like he's wearing spandex almost. Shouldn't he have like a belt buckle or a belt loops? Wow, belt loops and a belt is what I'm trying to say. As it is, he only has spandex and a cod piece. Pretty strange, but maybe that's the character design. I never claimed to like Injustice character designs. Anyway, so the thighs are functional, but they are a little bit loose front and back. The knees, not bad functionality, a little bit better than 90. That's pretty good. And the ankles, they do go back pretty far. Not necessarily the best looking thing the way that is oriented. How far forward can they go? just a tiny little bit. This will flex some, but not a whole lot. So they're not going that far forward. And the ankle rocker is at a pretty severe angle, so you're not going to get a ton of use out of that, but it is there. Toe hinge is very tight, so I guess it's technically usable, but it's not the best looking, but it's a toe hinge, so who cares? So final verdict on the articulation on this guy is the torso is wonderful. Arms are acceptable, neck is acceptable, hips are acceptable, except they're too thick and screwed this up a little bit loose. Yeah, it's not bad. I'll give it an 8 for articulation. Well, maybe 7, because the elbows only go 90, knees only go a little better than 90. I don't know, 7 or 8 for the articulation. It's not bad, but he's not going to be in as many poses as he could be in. His bulk isn't really what's limiting him here. It's the design choices in how they did the bulk. Putting it up over the... There's essentially just a big cap over the hip joint, and that's what's causing the problem here. So they could have easily avoided that. Yeah, it's not bad though at all. So it's a 7 or an 8. Okay, final verdict on this guy. I don't know. I personally don't like the way it looks at all. Those proportions ruin it for me. It's very strange looking. But objectively, it's not bad. I mean, really, the proportions are the biggest issue, and if you can overlook that, then you're overlooking 90% of what's wrong with this figure. So there's a lot to like about it, and I think most people are gonna like it, so that's a good thing. Posability will be good enough. This was sent to me. I'm borrowing this, by the way, from a buddy. So I don't know what the price point was. I was going to order one, but then I didn't have the money when it came out, and I didn't end up getting it. So I don't know, what is it, like 90 bucks, I'm guessing? I'll correct that on screen. But for the price, is it worth it? Yeah, probably. I'm just going to give it a 7, honestly. The proportions throw it off too much, and that's an objective thing. He has strange proportions. Unless somebody can prove to me that he's supposed to have strange proportions, which I don't think is the case. I couldn't find any images of the game model having really weird proportions. But yeah, once you pose them, those are going to go away. So to be fair, that's a subjective thing. Once you get to that point, you're probably not going to have an issue. But objectively, the proportions are an issue. So I'm going to give him a 7. That seems fair. And if you don't mind the proportions, then for you it might be an 8 or a 9. I think that is okay. So yeah, it's a good figure. It just has that one issue, and for me, it's a huge issue. For you, it might not be an issue at all. That seem fair? I think that's fair. So you guys can let me know what you think about the figure. Let me know what you think about the review by giving it a thumbs up or a thumbs down. And if you haven't subscribed, you might want to. I've got thousands of videos already on the channel for the days I don't upload, and for the days I do upload, it's almost every single day. So come back for all of that. I really love the way the back looks, by the way. Come back for all of that. And in the meantime, keep collecting.